Once upon a time, in the vibrant and complex world of the city corporal, there was a very special organ called Thymo. Thymo was like an elite school for young warriors, the T lymphocytes, the most sophisticated and precise defense soldiers in the city. Their mission was crucial: to train these lymphocytes to protect the city from foreign invaders, such as viruses and bacteria, but above all, to teach them to distinguish friends from enemies, that is, the cells of the body itself. Inside the thymus, life was hectic. Young T lymphocytes arrived immature, eager to fight. The first lesson was the most important: central tolerance. Imagine that each cell in the body carries a special flag, a little piece of itself that is presented to the T lymphocytes in training. The thymus, with its specialized instructors, thymic epithelial cells, showed these flags to the trainees. It carried out the positive selection in which if a T lymphocyte recognized the flag, the self-antigen, with a "Hello, how are you?" it was approved and moved on to the next phase. This ensured that the T lymphocytes knew who they should interact with in the future. It also promoted negative selection, in which if a T lymphocyte got too excited about the flag and showed signs of wanting to attack, an autoimmune reaction, it was summarily eliminated. It was a hard lesson but necessary to prevent the soldiers from attacking the city itself. This process happened with the help of dendritic cells and macrophages residing in the thymus, which presented self-antigens in an even more complete way. Only the T lymphocytes that passed these rigorous tests, demonstrating bravery and above all tolerance, were formed and earned the right to patrol the city corporal. Over time, the thymus began to swell with pride. After all, he was responsible for training the defense elite. A dangerous idea began to germinate in his mind. I am the heart of the city corporal. Without my T lymphocytes, the city would be lost. Therefore, I must command. The thymus, with its growing thirst for power, began to interfere in other areas of the city, dictating rules and controlling decisions. He became a hegemonic imperialist with a brilliant ability to disguise his dictatorial airs. He began to finance dictatorships and conflicts in different regions of the city corporal and used his influence over the T lymphocytes, who were seen as heroes, to impose his will, always disguising his actions under the cloak of security and well-being of the city corporal. No one dared to question him, for who would question the master of heroes? The bone marrow was a vital place for the city corporal, a true nursery and production center for blood cells. It was divided into well-defined compartments, such as the hematopoietic niche, where hematopoietic stem cells, the matrices of all blood cells, resided and differentiated. The endosteal niche, close to the bone, rich in cells that regulated the production of blood cells, and the vascular niche, close to the blood vessels, facilitating the release of mature blood cells into the bloodstream. Inside the bone marrow, the cells of the myeloid lineage, such as neutrophils, macrophages, and dendritic cells, were the tireless workers of the first line of defense. They constantly patrolled, engulfing invaders and alerting the adaptive immune system, led by T lymphocytes, about any threat. Myeloid cells, being the first line of defense, also developed a type of memory of their own, called innate training. Imagine that, when facing an invader, these cells learn to react faster and more efficiently in future encounters with the same enemy, even if they were not as specific as T lymphocytes. This happened through epigenetic and metabolic changes that made them more responsive to stimuli. The thymus, with its centralized vision and its belief in the superiority of the adaptive immune system, saw innate training as a threat. How come these inferior cells can learn and adapt? This jeopardizes my authority and the importance of my T lymphocytes, he thought. The trigger for the war was a dispute over resources in the bone marrow. The thymus, claiming that it needed more space to improve the training of T lymphocytes, demanded that the myeloid cells be relocated to other places in the city corporal. The reaction of the myeloid cells was immediate. They refused to budge, arguing that they were essential to the city's defense and that innate training was a valuable tool. The bone marrow became a battlefield, with T lymphocytes, under the orders of the thymus, confronting the myeloid cells. The thymus, blinded by arrogance, did not care about the consequences. He used all his influence to manipulate public opinion, painting the myeloid cells as rebels and threats to order. In the end, he decreed the expulsion of the myeloid cells from the bone marrow, transforming the place into an exclusive resort for the elite of the T lymphocytes. The city corporal was in crisis. The dictatorship of the thymus had exposed its claws, dividing the population and weakening the defenses. It remained to be seen whether the city would be able to free itself from the yoke of this authoritarian leader and restore harmony among its inhabitants. The story was far from over.